everyone. So as Liz said, I'm Laura from Red Internal Communication Agency. This is Fran and my colleague Andy. So we've heard loads of amazing stuff from some speakers today, and we're hoping to give you some practical stuff on top of that you can then take back to the office and hopefully make happen. So as we've heard from all the brilliant speakers so far, CSR presents an amazing opportunity to grow your business, and it also allows us to give back to the communities in which we live and work. That's all amazing, but we're going to talk about what can potentially stand in the way of that. So what we think those two things are is execution and onboarding. So we know it's the mid-afternoon lull. We've got a little bit of a twist on top of the pops, so you can take home some tips that will hopefully see you through your CSR strategy.
Yeah, cool. Hope the clicker works. Here we go. So straight in at number 5, it's one of my all-time favourite records. It's One Vision by Queen. Your CSR plan has to align with your company's overall vision, so your employees can understand how it fits in with your bigger picture and purpose. People are motivated by a compelling reason to get involved, and effective communication will help your workforce understand what you do and why. Creating a communication plan will help you spread the word and help colleagues understand how, as a business, you're supporting local communities and charities.
Right, and next at number 4, what you're doing is amazing, so be like Lulu and shout about it. CSR activities, they're the ultimate win-win. I mean, they benefit good causes, communities and charities, great for business, and they give colleagues that feel-good factor. And what's more, they make fantastic stories that people love to hear about. So there's lots of ways you can share those stories, from something as simple as an email update to perhaps a video diary. And if you can encourage your colleagues to tell the stories in their own words, then that's even better. So we know that there are lots of charities represented here today. Hearing your stories and the impact fundraising has made really also brings it home. So most of all, don't forget the photos. All the photos that we've used in this presentation today are taken from CSR activities that we've actually covered. And it's true, a picture tells 1,000 words. A good picture can attract massive positive coverage on your social media channels. You just got to make sure you've got sort of approval before you go ahead and publish it. So bringing this together, we thought we'd give you just a very quick case study of of a recent campaign that we helped support at Drax Group. So if you've not heard of Drax, it's actually the UK's largest generator of renewable energy. They've got sites across the UK and in America, and they've got around 2,800 employees. They've got this really long and proud history of helping local communities and supporting good causes, but not everyone across the group was sort of aware of the opportunities that they have. So last year, the group launched a whole group-wide CSR policy to get everyone on the same page, and they asked our help to launch it. So we could have just sort of emailed a link out to that new policy, but that wouldn't have had the impact that we were looking for. So what we did was we created a whole CSR identity and a comms campaign, and that was all based around what Drax wanted their people to feel, understand and do as a result of that policy. So here are some examples of what we did.
So you'll see on screen lots of smiley, friendly faces. So as Fran said, that photo is really important. But also people like to hear from people like them. So if you use genuine case studies like we did here, it'll go really well. We also used the hashtag 5ways2care, and that really tied the whole campaign together and also provided some meaningful measurement on social media.
Yeah, we used a multi-channeled approach, so the brand look and feel was highly visible around all the offices and sites. And the launch coincided with new volunteering opportunities, so people could get involved right from the start.
So all of this had a really positive impact in engaging colleagues, and it resulted in a surge of people taking up volunteering and reading the policy, which was ultimately sort of key success factor for Drax.
So number 3 is the Fab Four. So they're getting by with a little help from their friends. So when you launch anything new in a business, be it a process, a platform, a way of working, people just don't get it right away. And you're going to find yourself repeating messages over and over. It takes time to embed change. Some of us in the room might have heard of the marketing rule of 7. So basically people need to hear things 7 times and in 7 different ways until they get it. That sounds like a lot of work. But if you use people around the business who are already engaged, those people who are already willing to give to a charity, they will do that for you and actually create much more genuine content in the meantime.
So this one's a classic. In at number 2, it's Lou Reed, Follow the Leader. It's actually not a classic, but it's the only record we could find with leader in the title. As Cal was saying before, engaging any workforce starts right at the top. Leaders must be prepared to make a personal commitment if your activities are going to realise their full potential. So in other words, leaders have got to walk the walk. Leaders must be seen to be supporting activities, and the easiest way of doing this is for them to get involved, take part and share their own stories. This is an example of an event from Opus Energy, who are one of our clients in Northampton. They hosted a Pie the Manager Day, which sort of does what it says on the tin really. Employees got a chance to throw a custard pie in the face of the manager in exchange for a couple of quid for the charity. The event was a great way of raising money for charity on 2 points really. It gave leaders the chance to get involved and show their support for a charity, and of course it showed the managers taking themselves not too seriously and getting involved. Secondly, employees got a chance to throw a pie in the manager's face. Who wouldn't want to splat the boss? So this event worked on every level.
Okay, and finally, because CSR isn't a quick fix project, here's our number 1. So once you've started communicating out, you've just got to keep on running, you've got to keep on doing it. So one of the main reasons that change doesn't stick or embed is because after that initial sort of burst of energy and comms, people lose their motivation and interest in what's going on. So you've got to keep that momentum going and maintain a comms drumbeat. There are lots of ways you can do that. Just to give some examples, you could perhaps invite local charities to come and talk about what they're doing and how your fundraising is helping them. You can use National Charity Days as a hook throughout the year to keep a sort of a funnel of activity. So for example, there's Children in Need, Comic Relief, Macmillan Coffee Morning and so on. Another way you can keep engagement levels high is to think about how you can involve your colleagues in decision making. So for example, you could invite them to vote on their local charity or favourite charity, local project or charity that they want to support for the year. So ultimately, change in behaviour doesn't happen overnight, but if you keep playing back what you're doing and that positive impact you're making, you'll demonstrate how you're adding value over time.
So that really was some quick fire tips, but we have a couple more. So I guess these are relevant for any strategy that you want to roll out, but hopefully some top tips for your CSR too. So first of all, planning and purpose. So everything we do in life and in business should have a purpose. And I guess if you set that out at the front when you're setting your goals, you're always aiming for that North Star. And by doing that and saying, well, what happens if we don't do it? What are our measures of success? And what happens if we don't learn from those lessons that we learn on the way? You'll be able to take your plan forward. Second is communication. So by that I mean communicate well. So every piece of content that you push out through your business, through whichever channels work for you, should be both meaningful and relevant. So that means if it doesn't help you succeed and deliver on that purpose, don't share it.
Okay, support, you've got to make it as easy as possible for colleagues to get involved. So that's all about, they'll need to know who to speak to for help and what to do if they're unsure about what's going on. The community ambassadors that Laura mentioned can really help you fulfill that role. Leadership, are your leaders leading by example? So we know as sort of internal communicators that teams respond more positively to what they're being asked to do if they think their line manager believes and supports it. And that advocacy for what you're doing has got to start right at the very top of the tree, so right from the CEO downwards.
And lastly, and arguably most importantly in CSR, is recognition. The platform offers us some of that in the community credits, but just making sure that those colleagues who are out there doing that really good work in the community get a pat on the back. And then if you encourage that behaviour, this cycle starts all over again and you have to do less and less.
Okay, thanks Laura. So that brings us to an end of our very quick run through the charts. Obviously the superheroes making all the hits in your company are the ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We've literally only just skimmed the surface of what you need to do with your organisations. If you need any help engaging your employees, please come and have a chat with us. We're going to be networking afterwards and we'd be delighted to meet you. In the meantime, we've saved 5 minutes for any questions. If people have got any questions for us, this is the time to fire them at us.
I thought you were pointing at Laura to answer them.
Yep,
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah,
Passing the buck. Okay, any questions? Any comments? Any thoughts? There.
So, how do you
Speak up.
how would you say you strike the balance between engagement and getting people really excited, and then fatigue? Because sometimes on partnerships I've worked on in the past, the feedback we've had is that so I worked on a charity partnership, and the feedback was, okay, we need to talk about something else now. Obviously, that's not what I wanted to happen. So, yeah, how do you sort of strike that balance about keeping people excited and then overwhelming them with too much?
Yeah, I suppose from our point of view, we'd start right with basics and have that communications plan, which would lay out a calendar perhaps over a year. So you perhaps plot a regular stream of activities, but leaving a sufficient amount of space in between, keeping some high-level messaging going in between so it doesn't fall off the radar, but equally enough to maintain an interest. So I think it comes very much in the planning and understanding what you, or what the charity wants to get out of this, and what you as a corporate want to get out of it. So it's been clear on those goals from the outset too.
And also with your planning, obviously CSR isn't the only thing that a business does, and you need to make sure that your channels matrix complements everything across your business. So you have the peaks and troughs of, you might be running a colleague engagement survey in April, so you're going to tone something else down. But by having that air traffic control view of your yearly plan, hopefully you can take away some of that element of fatigue, but also making sure that you're open to feedback as well, because like you said, if you're hearing, I'm getting fatigued, I've heard about the charity too much, you can then react and change and adapt your plan.
Thank you.
Are you location specific? Would you work with companies, organisations all over the UK?
Yeah, we have global clients, so yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you need to travel? I see it's quite a lot of one-to-one that you need to have with that client.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's that one-to-one element, but I think now that we've got Zoom, we've got all sorts of video conferencing things, people can essentially be in the room, but absolutely, yeah, we travel all over.
Yeah, we work with global companies, global pharmaceutical firms, Anglian Water, Travis Perkins, London Luton Airport. So it's a breadth of companies as well. We've got we love getting under the skin of the companies we work for, and face to face is great. We always make a point of getting into the companies we work for. And
Because a particular problem we've got for some people is staff engagement, and that it looks like what you offer there could really engage the staff in a way that is unique to that organisation you're working with.
absolutely, yeah.
And it's got to be fun. I think that's what we've tried to do with this presentation, just on a very high level. I say engagement is about making that personal connection, and often that is, something which captures an imagination.
I think you said it earlier, Liz, it's how you make people feel. That's what they'll remember. They might not remember the detail of the stuff that you want them to do, but if you made them feel a certain way, they're much more likely to act on whatever it is that you need them to do as a business.
What's the most effective combination of kind of different comms channels? Because obviously I think you find if everything you do is digital, people start to just gloss over it, but equally doing it in person is very time intensive. So what's the kind of...
It's different for every business, and obviously it depends on your audience. So, for example, if we work with, like I said, London Luton Airport, a lot of their colleagues are remote-based, so they're off, checking people's bags, they're checking people in, they're welcoming the planes in when they land on the runway. They're not going to sit there with a magazine and sort of pore over some content, so their needs are really, really different. But we would always suggest just listening to your colleagues, and like I said earlier, that getting that feedback so you can change and challenge your channels matrix so it works for the people that you've got in the room and in the business. But a good mix of print and digital.
Yeah. I mean, just going back to that Drax example, we used posters, we used an online microsite, so for a sort of digital presence. We used, they've got a monthly newsletter, so obviously using that. And I think it's trying to touch all the bases, because some people are kinetic, some people are auditory, so it's just working for, a little bit for everyone.
Yeah.
Can I just follow up as well?
I do.
Do you find it's better to integrate with into talk about CSR, I say I'm coming from a charity perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's better for it kind of to be standalone comms that are very clearly like charity branded, or is it better to be kind of integrated? Say if the company has its own monthly newsletter, to be a feature in that instead of your own kind of separate piece of communication.
You can have a bit of a balance between that, because what you were saying about the fatigue is if you give something its own identity, at least it feels like a welcome break from whatever the other thing was that they were reading. So if a charity like the 5 Ways to Care, it's that thread that goes through all of your charity stuff and all of your CSR stuff, but it's not in every channel and in every feature. So if you're reading about the financial results, it just looks that little bit different. So we always say like the internal brand of a business is like the weekend version of the brand. So it just doesn't take itself quite as seriously, and that's a nice way to approach it without feeling too corporate or adhering to too many different brand guidelines.
Any more for any more?
Are you able to work with different size businesses, and do you have different sorts of packages, if you like, to be able to work with those different size businesses with their different needs?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we do has got to be on a case-by-case basis, so it'll be bespoke. We'll start with a conversation about what their challenges are, and we'll ask all those basics about demographics, how many people they've got, so on and so forth. And yeah, everything that we do will be tailored to addressing those challenges and needs.
Okay. I'll take.
I'm told that one of the biggest challenges is to get individuals to sign up to these programs. How do you break through that?
That's a good point.
Well, so should we give IC as an example, perhaps? I mean, if you're launching a new platform, I think one of the ways we might look at that is that there could be incentivization. So there's a reward for actually getting on board. There's then that competition element that's touched on before, so the leaderboards.
Yeah, I think it does, again, it depends on the employee base, but when you're asking someone to do something, they're not very likely to do it, which is kind of what I was saying about the repeating the messages over and over. So if you were to approach it, you would have a sort of pre-launch phase. So the first thing that you were asking them wasn't to do something. So I think that's a little bit better way, is that everybody in every business is thinking, what's in it for me?
Financial incentives, like give
Bribes?
each.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've worked with Drax, and that they gave financial incentives to get everybody on the intranet.
So it was for their profiles. It would for every, I think, 25 people or something, then someone would get an award. It would.
I think as well, it needs to go back to the why.
Yeah.
As an
Why are they
employee,
doing it?
we put ourselves in the shoes of the employees and say, why do I want to sign up to this platform? So again, it's going back to explaining why you need to be on board, what we're doing as a business, why we're doing this, how it aligns to our strategy and our vision as a company and where we want to be, and how we respect what you guys do.
Does that answer your question?
Of course.
Thank you. That's what we wanted to hear.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very, very much
Thank
indeed.
you
Thanks
very
very
much.
Staying around.
Yeah, staying around. Yeah, no problem.